turkey trot run, and you end up building community. We're finding that extremely important now. The town that we built our restaurant in, and eventually our brew pub, Lyons, Colorado, just had a devastating flood, and we're watching that community come together around our restaurant, and it's pretty special. So I want to thank you for having me here tonight, and I will do my best adding a little bit of color as to the pairing of the food and the beer, and talking about one of these names and what our beer means to us at the brewery. A little bit about our brewery. We started on April 25th, 1997 in a 4-foot snowstorm in a town of 1,400 people in Lyons, Colorado. I had an 8-month-old, and when I walk into a place like this, it reminds me of why I got into this business. If you can get 40 people in a room to talk about beer and talk about what's important, and friendship and fellowship, to me that's what it's all about. That's the culture of our company. I happened into the beer business. I was a mediocre home brewer at best. I brewed my first batch of Dale's Pale Ale, which was actually an Irish stout in a bathtub in Auburn, Alabama, in a trailer. And no one was brewing beer at the time in Auburn, Alabama. And I was a mountain biker wearing spandex at the time too, so I got shot at a lot. And my buddies made fun of the fact that I brewed beer, mainly because it was pretty bad, but they didn't really know what it was. So my best friend, Robbie Richardson, jokingly named the first beer Dale's Pale Ale. And it was a dry Irish style stout. So if you're a home brewer, that's one of the first styles you brew, because it's easy, and it's kind of, even with a malt extract, it was kind of hard to mess up. I did. So I'd say for a few months we called this stout that was one bottle would blow up, and the next one would be fairly drinkable. We called it Dale's Pale Ale, and that's where the name came from. Through my career of becoming an awful home brewer into a glorified mediocre home brewer, Dale's Pale Ale developed, and once we opened the restaurant, one of my customers was a home brewer, and we started trading beers back and forth, and my beer at that time became drinkable, and his beer was a little bit better than mine, and we decided to buy a little glorified homebrew system out of Santa Clarita, California, out of a guy's front yard who lost it all, and we loaded it up in a U-Haul truck and drove it back, and I think we spent 20 grand on it, and put it in the basement of our restaurant and started making beer. And Dale's Pale Ale was born. It was never really intended to be a nationally sold beer. It was intended to be a beer that we would brew on site, and we were looking for ways to attract people to a restaurant that had a population in the town of 1,400 people. So it worked. People were coming up. They were buying plates of food, eating burgers, jambalaya, and our beer started getting a name for itself because we were brewing a little bit outside of the style guidelines of a pale ale. It was more of an IPA. By today's standards, it looks like it's growing into a pale ale as things have progressed. And one day we received unsolicited facts about canning our beer, and it was a small Canadian company that was marketing this machine to small brew pubs and microbrewers, and we laughed hysterically. No one was canning beer at the time. We thought it was a joke. I thought it wasn't even an option, because I, like everyone else, felt like cans were made for lager-esque, pusillanimous, small, domestic beers that had no flavor. And growing up, I always drank cans of beer with my buddies, and when I wanted to impress my girlfriend, now wife, we would buy bottles of Michelob Light, and that's how my brain worked. And I think to this day, that's how a lot of people's brains work. Once we learned that cans were actually a superior package, and they're more draft-like than any other package on the market, and it's not arguable. it is fact, we decided to kind of just take the risk and get into the beer business. And even at that time, it was not to have a beer company, it was to market our restaurant. We thought, well, we do these cans of beer, no one's doing it, it's going to be fresh, they're going to want to come up and see where it's made. I have a little Cajun restaurant in a small town, we do live blues, they're going to come up, we would sell them some live music and some food, and sell them a pint of beer. Next thing you know, the beer business started growing, and it kind of grew inside of the restaurant. And today it is the larger part of our business. But what we're doing now is kind of circling back and using the beer business to drive people to our restaurants and open more restaurants. And it's kind of creating, Oskar Blues is kind of this interesting dynamic that I can't even explain, but it leads to a kind of drawing the entrepreneurial spirit out of all of our staff. And so with that, we've started a bicycle company, which I'm very passionate about, and a farm where we take the spent mash from our brewing process, and we feed our cows, we raise the cows, and we serve the beef at our restaurants. And so it's an interesting and to me a very fulfilling way to kind of explore this journey. And I'm here to answer questions and talk about it, or shut up as much as you want me to. But I do know that I'm happy to be here, and let's have a great meal. Yeah, cheers.